Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I have some MMA news. So UFC 230, the card that I have already declared the Nightmare Before Christmas, has taken yet another hit. And after plenty of hits and plenty of weird rearrangements and shakeups, it takes yet another hit. Luke Rockhold has pulled out of his co-main event rematch with Chris Weidman at UFC 230 due to like two bad knees. Like one had some ligament damage and the other one had like fluid buildup, and then he got a broken nose in grappling spar. In a grappling session, I guess while grappling, maybe he went back to AKA and was rolling with DC and it got too rough and he got his nose broke. But whatever case, he got an injury. It's how ironic that as soon as he returned to AKA, he gets all like worn out, gets injured. So where he was training at that weird Black Zillion or whatever gym, maybe he wasn't as sharp as he was at AKA, but at least he would make it to the fights. But now that he's kind of came back to AKA, as soon as he gets back to AKA, he gets all of a sudden gets all injured up. Too bad, banged up knees and a broken nose, like typical AKA fashion. How ironic. But yeah, so this fight has pulled out, but I really don't think the card takes too big of a hit because Chris Weidman has already got a replacement fight, and that's Jacare Souza. And that's not no downgrading opponent. Jacare was a Strikeforce world champion. I think he's actually in a better position than Rocco, in my opinion, in the weight class, because he's coming off a real close, maybe was it a split or a real close decision to Kevin Gastelum, who's challenging for the title against Robert Whitaker. Whereas Luke Rocco is coming off getting knocked out in the third round brutally by Yoel Romero. It's not like Rocco was crazy active. He fought like 4 times and maybe 4 or less times in 4 years. So he hasn't been active. He hasn't been fighting twice a year. He hasn't been fighting 3 times a year. He's not on no winning streak. He's not doing nothing super impressive. Yeah, he's a great fighter, but he hasn't been putting in great work. Like he hasn't been putting as far as his resume. He hasn't been stacking his resume as far as his actual fighting resume too much. I mean, he was right there for a title shot, but then Whitaker got injured. He could have fought for the title. Then he could have fought he fought Romero for a title. But still, you got brutally knocked out, whereas Jacare just kind of fought to a close decision against Kevin Gastelum. So I say, all in all, Jacare's in a better position. As far as the actual rivalry, or at least the history between Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman, I don't really think either of them in the best position to really capitalize off that history right now, because, I mean, Luke Rockhold stopped him definitively left. It wasn't no close split decision. I mean, it was a mistake made by Weidman in the fight, but still, that was a while back. And since then, neither of them really have touched the title, and neither of them have been that active. Matter of fact, Chris Weidman, since losing the title, has really what he won one fight since losing the title. In 2014, 15, he lost the title, and has only won 1 fight since then. And he was all trying to get a title shot off of beating Kevin Gastelum. And since beating Kevin Gastelum knocked out Bisping, then beat Jacare. Now that's why he's in the title position he is in. Why Chris Weidman's been sitting on that 1 win. So it's like I said, Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold are definitely not the best position, or the fight wasn't as good as it could be, because it's not like neither of them been putting in that much work and been winning that much. So I don't think it changes too much to have Jacare versus Weidman. I think it was always an interesting match. Like when Chris Weidman was champion, Jacare was coming up. People, or at least me and some people, saw it as a good match. We see a top-notch Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu legend versus a solid Division I wrestler, former champion. So it's gonna be wrestling versus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and whose striking could be better, whose physicality could be better. And I think it's an interesting matchup, and it's a matchup we haven't seen yet. So I think, in my opinion, it could actually be a better matchup. The only thing is that you're not getting the same amount of time for them to train. Jacare was gonna come in and get maybe a week or 2 of training, then fight Chris Weidman. But it's not neither of them do anything that you really gotta adapt to. They don't got no weird type of striking or anything. You know what they're gonna do when they come there. They're both to impose their will. They both kind of have heavy hands. They're both I guess, forward fighters, in my opinion. They're not really backwards fighters. They like to go forward. They like to smother you with their wrestling and to put that power on you. That's what they do. I say Jacare is a little bit more powerful with his punches, but I say size-wise, Chris Weidman has the size on him. But it's like I said, it's a pretty 50-50 interesting matchup, and it's something that I say, in my opinion, it's a newer, fresher matchup that hasn't happened before. And I don't think it's changed too much. Either it's not that much of a better matchup, it's not that much of a worse matchup. So the card really doesn't take too much of a hit, but definitely, as far as somebody pulling out, yes, it's another pull out of the card, but it's not that big a hit in my opinion. So yeah, that's about all I got to say about the Weidman versus Jacare matchup. But I think there's actually an even more interesting matchup out there that they could have made, and I think that's Weidman versus Paulo Costa or Borrachinha. So whatever you want to call them, I think that would have been a more interesting matchup. I think when you got Weidman versus Jacare, you got two people who really, win or lose, don't really lose too much. Or at least maybe it's not that them winning or losing isn't that interesting. I mean, it could be a big deal about them winning or losing, but as far as to like the fans or maybe just to everybody, them winning or losing isn't the most interesting in my opinion. I think Paulo Costa, I think undefeated in the UFC. I think his overall career he's undefeated, if I'm not wrong. So he got an undefeated fighter. And if he beats Weidman, then a star is born. I mean, he might already have some star power. If you beat a former champion who's still relatively young and not past their prime or in their prime or whatever you want to call it, that's a big win. Especially if you can do it in a dominant fashion or like a exciting fashion or like a impressive fashion. That's a big win. And if Weidman beats him, that's a big win. You beat a person with a lot of hype, a lot of attention on him, and it's going to be a fresh matchup, even more fresh than Jacare. Jacare matchup just fresh because he hasn't fought Jacare before, whereas the Paulo Costa matchup is fresh because you want to see how good Paulo Costa is, and if he wins or you got more stuff implications if he wins or loses in the matchup. Because like I said, it's completely fresh, but you got a young talented fighter, whether he wins or loses, it's a lot of interest in like how that fight goes. Whereas the Jacare, like I was saying, it's going to be a big fight, maybe even more big for the fighters themselves. But as far as fans go, it's going to be exciting, but it's not going to be like nothing like new to them. It's not like going to be like some new happenings because you've seen Jacare win, you've seen Jacare lose, you've seen Weidman win, you've seen Weidman lose. So it's like kind of dried up a bit. And it's not like there's necessarily going to be a fight that's going to get them a title shot after whoever wins going to get a title shot after this matchup. It's going to be maybe put them in a position to win one more fight and get a title shot, but not going to put them in a position to get a title shot after this fight. So it's like a Borrachinha versus Weidman or Weidman versus Borrachinha would be much more interesting. And like I said, the implications just much more interesting in my opinion. But that's about all I got to say. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.